Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Welcome to the Hoops and Use podcast, where we delve into professional hardwood happenings along with graduating gridiron gossip. I'm your host, Dayton Brown.
And I am also your host, Matthew McFarridge. We are here, folks, to give you news and opinions of what we think about what's going on in the NBA, college football, and, just the world revolving those sports. We'd like to thank everyone who supported us so far. We took a little bit of break between our couple episodes. We had a couple things going on between us, but, started pumping out some new content. Last week we released a top 5 plays of the college football season. Halfway through, I think it went really well.
It was a lot of fun to make.
It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed kind of coming up with the 5 plays, and we're hoping to build off that momentum and keep giving you guys great content. Where you can also check out our page. We just released or we're going to be releasing later on today. Top 5 countdown of the top 5 NBA teams on paper at the beginning of the season. We had to do some tweaking because coming up after the start of the season, injuries already happening.
Yeah.
But check that out. That's coming up to our YouTube page on Friday after this podcast releases. So check that out. Dayton, what's on the menu today? What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about a little bit of the beginning of the NBA season. We're also going to give our own predictions. Even though the NBA season has already started, we haven't given our predictions out yet, and it's only a couple games into the season. Like 1 or 2 for each team. So we're going to do our own predictions towards the end of the show. We're going to talk about some, obviously, NBA basketball to start the season. And I don't know if you noticed this. I actually know you noticed this because you were there for one of them. Ton of upsets in NCAA college football.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was a crazy.
Probably going to lead into some more as rivalry games start to vamp up.
I think so. Conference season's in full swing now. You got a bunch of big games coming up this weekend as well. So we'll kind of talk about this past weekend, what it means for the college football playoff. And like you said, we're going to kind of break down who we think is going to win some NBA awards this season. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be it's good to be back.
This is one of the better times of the year. October, you have, college football is in full swing. NFL is almost halfway over, which means it's also getting into full swing.
Right.
NBA basketball starts, and playoff baseball, one of the best sports to watch in the playoffs,
I agree.
is also getting closer to the World Series. So, this is the perfect formula if you're a huge sports fan.
I agree.
It doesn't really matter. Of the 3 major sports.
I agree. I think they said Thursday was at only the 17th time ever that all 4 major sports, basketball, NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB all played on the same day.
Oh, interesting.
Only the 17th time ever. It's just crazy because I guess usually baseball you kind of have a break at this time, and you don't usually have all this stuff happening at the same time. I think the NBA season also started a little bit earlier than it has in the past. I'm used to it happening right around Halloween, and it's
they shortened it about, I think, a week and a half.
Yeah,
shorter than usual, and I think that's also because of what was it? It might also have to do with the CBA, part of it, but they're trying to cut down on back to back.
Yeah, back to back and three days. Yeah, 3 games in a row. I think that's the big part of it. So I'm looking forward to it, man. Like you said, it's a great time of year to be a sports fan for sure.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Let's jump into segment number 1. It's what's trending. We're going to take a look at the week's top trending sports topics on Twitter and discuss them. This is we kick off the shows with this segment every time, so get used to this great segment. I love it. Obviously, the NBA is back. We now not only have college football to talk about, but the NBA season has kicked off, and it's already been really exciting. Unfortunate injuries. We'll talk about that a little bit. But other than that,
sad.
Fantastic games so far.
Oh, yeah.
And there's just so much excitement after this past offseason. This was the craziest offseason. We've talked about it before on the podcast, and you can literally talk to any NBA fan. This is the craziest offseason they have ever experienced with all the player swappings. I think it was 14 All-Stars switch teams.
Yep, and they mostly went all out. They mostly went all out west. That's the power out west is only getting harder. It's getting bigger. It's getting better out west. The East is abysmal. It's not looking too good. It's sad. especially with the Gordon Hayward injury. I mean, the Celtics
Yeah.
were going to probably contend against the Cavs to go to the NBA Finals, and
Right.
with Gordon Hayward going down, it just kind of
Yeah.
I don't know that Kyrie can carry that team. He couldn't carry Cleveland whenever he was there alone.
No,
So I don't think
he couldn't.
he can carry Boston, but
It'll be interesting. In fact, let's actually just jump right into that since they did play a couple of nights ago. So Boston traveled to Cleveland as the Celtics faced the Cavaliers. They lost. It was actually a pretty close game.
It was.
Really good game. Gordon Hayward, first 6 minutes into the game, he pretty much fractured his ankle. Really bad injury. Pretty horrific stuff if we're being honest about it. It takes me back to the Kevin Ware, Paul George injuries of the past that we've seen.
Just
something
something you've never seen before. I mean,
exactly.
I think I was watching SportsCenter. I think Stephen A. Smith came on and he said he was there at that game. He was like on the baseline. He said he's covered basketball forever, and think what you want about Stephen A. Smith. He said he's never seen anything like it. And you brought up the Kevin Ware thing. That was kind of a freak injury. I think this kind of goes more towards the Paul George kind of thing.
Right.
And some people thought Paul George wouldn't come back to play basketball ever.
Yeah.
And look where he's at now. I mean, he's one of those NBA All-Stars once again now at Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
It's sad. I think I like Gordon Hayward. I think he's
Me too.
a great player. I think he was going to help Boston.
Even though I've said in the past he's overrated, I still like him as a guy. He's still a good player.
He's definitely overrated. He's not. He got overpaid, but that's the NBA nowadays. I mean, you look
right.
NBA, NFL, even players just get paid what the market says.
Yeah. Like 25 to 50% of players in the NBA now are overpaid. That's a ludicrous number. It's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, it's just the market. I also have a feeling Gordon Hayward may come back stronger, or not stronger, sooner than people are thinking. Maybe even stronger than some people are thinking.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that he'll rehab just fine. Smart guy. He's not going to push himself too much, but he also is passionate for the game. He's got a really good supporting cast. And I don't know if you saw this, but if you guys who are listening, if you guys haven't read this, Sean Livingston had an interview, or I think he just took some questions from the press. He was asked about the Gordon Hayward injury, and he gave a fantastic response. He had a horrific injury himself a few years ago. Mm-hmm. It was probably closer to about 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
When he was playing with the Nets, it was pretty much similar to the Kevin Ware, Paul George in terms of his knee, just kind of pretty much snapping, his leg snapped. And he was out for a good majority of time, but he came back, won a couple championships with the Warriors, been a great player since then. So the advice that he gave Gordon was fantastic in my eyes. But what are your takeaways from the game besides that Hayward injury? You had LeBron dropping a near triple-double. Tristan Thompson, first time coming off the bench. Kyrie had a pretty good game. It was our first time seeing him in that offense and seeing this new team. What are your general thoughts about the game?
Man, it's tough because, I mean, you look at the first half and Cleveland jumped out this huge lead at halftime, and you thought like, oh, this is Boston can't come back from this. This is the same Boston that didn't have an offensive identity last year. I mean, outside of Isaiah Thomas, especially you saw that in the playoffs. You saw in that series against Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals, they just didn't have any offense outside of Isaiah Thomas. And when he went out, it was like they had no shot. Kyrie's definitely a very, very good offensive player, and he's going to get his points. You still have good players there. Al Horford, Jaylen Brown is a good second year player. He's coming up. I think they're going to be okay. I think Boston's going to be okay, like you said. Yeah. I think Kyrie's a good enough player. They're going to make the playoffs. I don't know that he can carry them by himself, but just based on that game, I mean, you saw the guts that they had in the second half for coming back, and they had a shot to tie the game at the end. I mean, Kyrie should have probably made that shot. He even said after the game that he should have got his feet under him more. I know he went for the pump. LeBron went for the pump, and he didn't expect him to go for the pump that bad, I guess, because Kyrie, he had an open shot. I mean, LeBron was there, but he stepped to the side. He had an open shot. If he would have just balanced up, I think he would have made it. I mean, I think those teams are going to kind of go back and forth all year. I think it's going to be kind of a split series over the season. I think we definitely saw that, like we said in our top 5 countdown, LeBron James is going to be in the NBA Finals again. I mean, that's just how it is. The East is weak. You saw the 2 best teams happen right there, and just unfortunate that Gordon Hayward is out, so we probably won't see him this regular season. His GM, I think, said not GM. Uh, oh gosh, his manager, his agent. That's the word I'm looking for. His agent came out and said he's probably done for the year.
Yeah.
You can't rule him out. I mean, something might happen if they make the playoffs as a high seed. He can come back. I don't think he's going to push it, but if the doctors clear him, I think he's going to come back and he's going to kick it off. So
that's what I always say when like there's early season injuries. It's like, hey, if you guys make the playoffs, have a deep run, there's a possibility this guy can come back. It's whether or not you actually want to bring him back. You know,
exactly.
You can't really rule him out.
It's kind of like long term, short term. I mean, you signed Gordon Hayward for what, 4 years?
Yeah, they gave him the max, which was 4 years and 170 whatever $1 million. Yeah, 180,000
whatever
money it was.
I mean, I think this game definitely showed that Cleveland is still the better team. I think they got kind of slack in the second half. I think Boston kind of went on a run. They had the energized moment after seeing Gordon Hayward at halftime in the locker room. He stayed until halftime to talk to the team, and then before going to the hospital. I think he kind of gave them an energy. I think they're going to play for him this year. But again, the East is kind of wide open after Cleveland. And we definitely kind of saw that. I think when Boston played the next night, they played against Milwaukee and lost.
They did.
Giannis kind of went off. Giannis, the next LeBron is what some people are saying, the next best all around player.
Yeah,
it's anything can happen, man. Anything. I don't know.
And like, as much as we clown on the East, there is some talent in the East. It's just not obviously as huge as there is in the West, and the overall teams aren't that good. There's not a lot of good coaching staffs in the East, by the way. Like, I can name you off the top of my head so many coaches from the West, but when I try for the East, it's like I'm gonna have to research some of these names. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, obviously, and that brings me back to Boston and Cleveland. I think Boston is overall a better coach team than Cleveland. I like Brad Stevens more than Tyronn Lue. I didn't think I'd be saying this because when Brad Stevens came to Boston, I thought he was just a college coach. I thought he was only going to be able to thrive, in the NCAA format and whatnot with recruiting. But he's turned it around. He's obviously a very intelligent guy who knows basketball. Cleveland shot 5% better overall than Boston did for that game. And they took less shots, believe it or not, and they shot better, which obviously usually happens, but only 5 less shots, so it was just about the same. Yet somehow Boston only lost by 3, and I go back to that Kyrie Irving shot. He pretty much isolated LeBron, pump faked him, stepped over. If he knocks that 3 down, imagine what the NBA world would have done. Like imagine if he would have made that shot.
Yeah,
it would have been wild. And I also saw more, at least this is just my perspective, I'm sure you as well and many other people, I saw a lot more minutes from Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum than I was expecting. Could have been because of the Hayward injury.
And I think that played a big part in it. I know they want to get Jaylen Brown more involved and get Tatum his minutes. Jaylen Brown's a great. He's going to be. I think he's going to be great.
He played 40 minutes. Yeah, he played 1 minute less than LeBron.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Kyrie played 39 as well, which. I'm assuming we're going to have to expect that. I did read a tweet from somebody, and not that I 100% agree with it. I thought it was an interesting thing now that they're 0-2. If Kyrie, let's say he plays the same amount of minutes. Let's say he comes off the bench. Let's say he's the 6th man. I think that would be interesting. Like, start Marcus Smart. As much as I don't like Marcus Smart, overall as a player, I don't think he's built to be a good, other than a good role player in the NBA. I don't think his ceiling is anything higher than that.
No, not at all.
Starting him out on defense, the Thunder did this with Thabo Cephalosha instead of James Harden, Andre Roberson instead of some of the other bench players on Oklahoma City. We've seen teams do this in the past before. You start your really, really good defensive player, and then you kind of work in the offensive power to spark things up. Because if you have Kyrie Irving coming in, going up against, the backup point guards for each teams right off the bat, that's going to create some electrifying stuff. That's just a thought. I think that would be interesting as long as he played the same amount of minutes, because he actually looked pretty good.
It'd be interesting. I don't think that. Again, I don't think they're going to do that, but that is an interesting concept. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that.
It's very random. I saw it, but one of those things I thought I would have been like, you're crazy for thinking that. But now the more I think about it, I'm like, that might be a pretty good idea.
I mean, it worked It worked for the Thunder, like you said, with Cephalosha and Harden coming off the bench. I mean,
Right.
they traded Harden. They obviously didn't think too high
Right.
of him. But still, I mean, I don't think they're going to do that to Kyrie. I think Kyrie.
Yeah.
I don't think Kyrie would take very kindly to that. I mean, do you see how J.R. Smith
Right.
reacted to Dwayne Wade getting the starting spot over
Yeah,
him? He's
that's
kind of
true.
just, you saw him after the game giving the handshake to Kyrie. He has that hood over his head and all that. He just kind of looks like. I don't think that could get toxic this year. If Cleveland starts kind of,
Yeah.
you know how Cleveland is in the middle of the year. They always just kind of go like, do we really want to play? Do we really want to play defense? I think J.R. Smith, if that locker room, if they start losing some games, have that little bad stretch that every team goes through, J.R. Smith could be kind of bad for that locker room. What do you think about that? Like, what do you think?
Yeah. And Cleveland is also one of the teams that LeBron is the master of trade deadline deals.
Absolutely.
Because he got J.R. Smith in a trade deadline deal from New York.
Yep.
Along with Amon Shumpert. They got Timofey Mozgov from Denver during a trade deadline deal. They got Channing Frye. I want to say, no, I think Richard Jefferson signed with them as a free agent. I think, not sure.
I think he did too. I think he did too.
But
Could be wrong.
a lot of their Kyle Korver, a lot of their role
Yep.
player. Kyle Korver was a little bit earlier, but still they got him in a trade. But crazy stuff that they're able to build this team. So yeah, if J.R. Smith, isn't liking it, isn't like coming off the bench for LeBron's buddy, who I love Dwayne Wade, but I feel like that's how J.R. Smith is kind of viewing this, is like, okay, you're going to put me in the back seat because of your best friend. Dwayne Wade was 3 of 10 for 8 points, nothing spectacular, but nothing too awful. I think he's going to need to be incorporated more into the offense before we come up with any conclusions with him. But J.R. Smith could use that as a kind of a like, see, if you guys had me in, Smith had 10 points himself. He shot a little bit better. Overall, I think for this team, J.R. Smith is going to contribute better and more than Dwayne Wade. But if it comes down to it, I am 100% with you. I think J.R. Smith might be bad for that locker room, and he could be traded before the deadline in February, which is crazy to say because he's an icon over in Cleveland now.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think is the biggest weakness of Cleveland right now? I mean, they obviously have a bunch of really good guys. They have Dwayne Wade, they have LeBron, they have they have JR, Tristan Thompson, Kevin Love. Derrick Rose. I mean, they have all these former All-Stars, former MVPs that are kind of just like in a melting pot together. Do you think it'll work? Do you think they can? Obviously, I think they're the favorite coming out of the East. Do you think, based on what you've seen so far from them this year, do you think that they give anybody in the West a run for their money?
I don't know. Because I feel like Golden State's going to be the only team to come out of the West that Cleveland's going to really have to worry about.
Yeah.
As far as their only weakness, honestly, I think even though they have some guys who can knock the three ball down, I think their 3-point shooting might be their Achilles heel. They were 5 of 22 against Boston. But I mean, Kevin Love is a good 3-point shooter. LeBron can shoot the three. Kyle Korver coming off the bench and J.R. Smith are pretty good.
Yep.
But Korver didn't attempt a shot. J.R. Smith was 1 of 3 from 3. Dwayne Wade, we know, isn't a 3-point shooter. Neither is Derrick Rose. Jay Crowder can knock it down when he, can, but he's more of a role. You got to set him up, so you have to do some extra work. So it's not like I think that's once Isaiah Thomas comes back, that might improve. But Kyrie Irving was the guy where you can just give him the ball, he can create his own shot, and a lot of the times that was a 3-pointer. They don't really have that now. Their old weakness was they don't have another wing player besides LeBron. I think Jeff Green is starting to kind of fill that role in. I think he'll get better.
Yeah, I agree.
And then also with LeBron's like Miami teams, he didn't have really good down low post playing. Tristan Thompson, I think, has kind of solved that now that he's coming off the bench. You have Kevin Love stretching the 5, having Thompson come back down low. So really, I think it's 3-point shooting. What about you, man?
I kind of agree with you. I think, again, they're 3-point. They have the big men. They have, they have depth. I think they have, a good solid 8, 9 guys, 10 guys maybe that they can rely on. It just comes down to it in the postseason. Are they going to take care of business in the Eastern Conference? Are they going to, they should win every series, honestly, up until the Eastern Conference Finals in about 4 or 5 games. They should sweep everybody. They have that. You have LeBron James. He turns it on in the playoffs. They should win 4-0. They should win 4-1, something like that.
Yeah.
If they kind of like start slipping and start messing around, and get kind of worn out, they have a bunch of older guys. I mean, they're an old team. Channing Frye is like 55, I think. He's been in the league forever. It feels like.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wade, I mean, he's going to be hurt half the year, so he'll be healthy come the postseason. I mean, you have all these older guys. It's just a matter of, are they going to be energized when it comes down to the postseason? I mean, LeBron can't do it himself, and I think we're going to see a lot of, like you said, he's the master of the trade deadline moves. We'll see kind of what he thinks about the team up to the trade deadline and see how they're going to make a move.
Yeah.
That's just what Cleveland does. I think Dan Gilbert is going to make in the GM. I forgot the new GM's name. They got rid of their old one.
I don't know.
But I think they're going to make a move to go like, hey, LeBron, we want to win this year and with you in future years.
Yeah.
I think, it's, I don't know. I think they should easily take care of people in the East, and if they mess around,
yeah,
it could get nasty. I think.
Also, I feel like we say that every year though when Cleveland starts to dip. Not that I'm disagreeing with you per se, but we kind of say that every year, and LeBron finds a way to either inspire his team for them to play better or somehow ups his game up and helps his team win games. Like it's crazy how he's able to do that stuff. And
we'll get into this later on with the MVP talk. We're going to break down who we think should win the awards. But I think that's why LeBron won't win the MVP. I mean, everybody's saying, oh, LeBron's going to finally win it again this year. I don't think he will, just because everybody's so used to him doing that. He doesn't really play defense until later in the year, so we don't have to really worry too much about that. But he puts up big numbers night after night, and then the team starts kind of dipping in the middle of the season, and everybody's like, oh no, what's happening in Cleveland? And then they pick it back up for the playoffs towards the end of the season. And we're just so used to that. We're used to seeing LeBron carry these guys, so I don't think that people really realize how special it really is.
Right. Yeah. It's we're definitely taking for granted LeBron, but also kind of to counter that, LeBron. One of the knocks against him is that he's surrounded by a little bit too much talent to be considered for MVP. But at this point, every MVP candidate kind of is. Yeah. Minus Kawhi and Giannis.
I even think Giannis has enough talent around him now.
I think Giannis does kind of too.
I think if you look at Kawhi, who else do they have? Name me 3 other players on the Spurs.
That's the other thing. Yeah, I mean, but some people argue, Popovich is, but I think that's kind of a poor excuse or an example or whatever. Kind of valid, but kind of a poor excuse.
Kind of the same thing you see in the NFL. Kind of the same thing you see in the NFL. I think with Tom Brady. It's like Tom Brady. Oh well, he's a system quarterback. It's Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick made the team. And that very well may be true, but I think LeBron more makes the team than, anybody else does. I mean, LeBron is the coach, the GM, the owner of everything. Like he is the system that you want to fit into. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
I found out Cleveland's GM's name.
What is it?
It's LeBron James.
It is LeBron James.
It's LeBron.
I should have known. And the owner, I believe Dan Gilbert, but co-owner is also LeBron James. I believe
it is also LeBron James.
I believe so. And, up until probably after this year, I really think he's going to leave. That's just my thoughts.
You think so? You think LeBron will?
I think he will. That's going to be the biggest debate all year. I think is, does LeBron leave? Where does he go? Does he go out west? Does he stay in the East? That's going to be crazy. It will.
And that's the other thing. So. Real quick, we're rambling. We got to move on to the next game in just a second. I just want to say something real quick.
Go ahead.
But to bring up to that point, like LeBron has the chance, still the best player in the league, 15 years on Earth, period. Best player in the league. He may leave his team next season. Remember 7 years ago, or 2010 offseason, when LeBron was choosing which team to go to the first time when he was a free agent. Now that's around, due to all of this past offseason and the other, switch ups of guys going to teams, all-star players switching and going or being traded or wherever it may be, obviously we're still excited for it, but like us being shocked about LeBron leaving is not going to, like, people are already predicting that LeBron is going to like LA or some other team, you know, and I'm like, back then it was, I really hope LeBron stays in Cleveland. I really hope he's loyal. Now people understand, like, players want to win championships. That's what they're here to do. Let them go to those teams. And I personally enjoy it a lot. Obviously takes away from some of the excitement and shock, because I remember the moment I was when LeBron announced his decision. That was a worldwide thing. We're not going to see that again, most likely not, at least.
Yeah.
unless Giannis does become the next LeBron and decides to, go to the Knicks or something like that.
I agree. Hey, that sounds like a very, very interesting. Leaving you with this for some time.
Yes, isn't that valid? Him and the unicorn. That'd be interesting.
That would be. I mean, hey man, it could very well happen. So let's go ahead, like you said, let's go ahead and let's stop talking about Cleveland, stop talking about LeBron. Let's move on to the other game that was on opening night. We had the Houston Rockets traveling to Golden State. They kind of fell down big. They were down 13 points entering the fourth quarter. Chris Paul didn't play that well. I think he missed a lot of shots. He left the game with about 6 minutes left with a knee injury, apparently, which his knee injury was fine all game up until the last 6 minutes. I'm just saying, they put Eric Gordon in. They come back, win by 1 on the road. Over the Golden State Warriors. Golden State loses the opening night for the second straight season. Should Warrior fans panic? Dayton, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the Warriors should blow it up.
I think so. Ship everybody off. Ship everybody off.
Yeah. Bring some of those pieces to Portland while you're at it, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
No, Warriors shouldn't panic. Again, second season in a row of losing the home opener. And we saw what happened a season ago with what they did. There's no need to panic. I watched Steve Kerr's presser the day after their loss, which, by the way, it was a fantastic game. It's not like they got blown out.
Not at all.
It's
not at all. It was
it's not
very,
like,
very competitive game. Golden State almost won. They called off Kevin Durant's game winner because it was was still in his hands as the buzzer went off. So not a blowout at all. It was very, very competitive. Very, very good game.
It was pretty much a coin toss at the end of the game as to who would win. So, even if Golden State would have won, it would have been like a tightly contested match. Wouldn't have been like an impressive win, so to speak, for them. So either way, they just they know that they need to improve. But I was watching Steve Kerr's press conference or media time the day after. Did you happen to see? I sent you DM like an hour ago of this, but I'm sure you've already seen it, of the fake Klay Thompson guy.
I did. That was literally the highlight of my night. Everybody was like,
so funny.
Everybody was like, that's so weird. I was like, that's the best thing of the night.
That is. I loved it so much. But that was fantastic. But I sent you a little meme in DM if you want to check that out while I'm talking about this, because it's pretty funny. But anyway,
I just saw it. Good. That's good.
Steve Kerr was asked about fake Klay, and they were like, "Oh, did you see fake Klay?" And he was like, "Yeah, I feel like that his representation summed up our night perfectly about them being like lethargic and not moving." And that's exactly what it was. It was more of a physical, mental conditioning that was kind of down, and that's gonna happen. They obviously do have new pieces that are playing. Jordan Bell, Kevin Looney, Caspi. Nick Young. They all saw minutes. And pretty much Looney more minutes than before he has played, but all the other guys were brand new, so it's going to take some time to get used to it. Their depth is interesting only because Steve Kerr is able to be a fantastic maestro as a coach. Because obviously Nick Young, Sean Livingston, JaVale McGee, and Andre Iguodala did not play. By the way, JaVale McGee and Andre Iguodala didn't play in the game, which are they're two better bench players, obviously.
Exactly,
but
they are.
Nick Young, Sean Livingston, McCaw, he's playing really well. Jordan Bell impressed. But other than that, their starters are going to be the head of this team, and that includes Zaza Pachulia. Because when you have games like without JaVale McGee, Zaza is going to have to step up and actually play like a decent center, on a championship team.
Yeah.
So other than that, to your original point, I don't think that they should panic. I think that Houston played damn good game, came back, shocked me. It surprised me that they were able to come back because I thought the Warriors were going to put the nail in the coffin sometime in the third quarter, but they didn't, and Houston came back. So really impressive. I think that this game speaks more volume to the Rockets than it does the Warriors. And even now that Chris Paul is out with a knee injury, did he play hurt during that game? I mean, even then he was 2 of 9. He wasn't that much of a factor. His 11 assists were impressive. But like worst case scenario now for Houston, Chris Paul's out for a month and James Harden gets to run your point again where he almost won MVP last season and you guys went to the second seed or third seed in the West.
Yeah.
So it's
I did see on Twitter earlier today there was an article somebody wrote. I think it was for ESPN. They were talking about Houston's actually reaching out to players, point guards. They're reaching out to Jameer Nelson.
I saw that too.
Jameer Nelson, I believe, is the main target they're looking for. Jameer Nelson doesn't know if there's enough playing time or enough consistent playing time for him. He doesn't want to just go play for 6 to 8 weeks and then get cut or just sit on the bench. I mean, again, like you said, it's going to be interesting. Do they put James Harden back at 1? Did they pull Eric Gordon in? what do they do? I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think this is one of those things where they miss Patrick Beverly, because Patrick Beverly was a very, very good defensive guard. He's not that bad on offense either. I don't think. I think he's he's improving year after year on at the point guard position on offense, and it's just going to be interesting to see how Houston goes from here. Because the big thing that for me, of all the the super teams that were formed this offseason, I didn't think that I thought Boston would be okay. I thought Gordon Hayward and Kyrie would get along. That was they kind of fit together. It seemed like you have. Gordon Hayward can score. He can move around without the ball. Kyrie likes to control the ball. Oklahoma City, I was a little bit worried about because they all three of the superstars like to run ISO. They're an ISO. They've always run ISO and wherever they've been. And so how's Russ going to be able to share the ball? He still scored a triple-double, by the way, the other night. While Carmelo and Paul George still got their points and touches. So I think it's going to be just fine there. But Houston, that was the biggest one that I was scared about. I was like, how is CP3 going to fit in with James Harden? Harden moves back to the 2 guard. Are they going to split time at the 1, like bringing the ball up court?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it was interesting, and I think Chris Paul kind of struggled because he is very ball control when he brings the ball up, but he's more slow developing as far as like getting the play started. Whereas in Houston, Mike D'Antoni wants it fast. He wants time and time again. He wants play. He wants 3-point shot. And I think Chris Paul's gonna have to adapt to that. That's gonna be something that he's gonna struggle with because that's not his play style.
Once Chris Paul crosses the half court line, it's as if he just enters this mode as if he's like analyzing the floor and trying to figure things out, which obviously worked with the Clippers. And like you said, perfectly pointed out, Mike D'Antoni is the core of that. He doesn't want his offense to slow down.
Nope.
Transition points are more important in the NBA now than ever.
Yep.
That and 3-point shooting, which D'Antoni is able to, develop and produce often enough, no matter the roster he's given. So I think it's going to be interesting now to see Paul out and what this roster can do without him, which is honestly kind of good news for the Rockets because, again, Chris Paul only has a year in Houston guaranteed. The rest of his contract only goes out through this season.
Yep.
So at the end of the year, if you realize that, hey, this team was actually kind of better off without Paul and the confusion on offense, that's perfect for Houston. Then that means you can move on from Chris Paul without any regrets.
Exactly.
So this next month is really going to be a true assessment of how James Harden is going to be able to control this team with lesser talent. Because, again, even though they lost just one guy in Chris Paul, they also, again, had to trade Patrick Beverly. They had to trade Sam Decker. They played some pretty important minutes for the team a season ago.
They did.
So it all just comes down to it is once Paul does come back, is he going to be willing to be a catch and shoot type guy, kind of stand in the corner? Because James Harden is clearly better suited for this offense overall.
I believe
he has been.
The team's been built around him. That's the thing. James Harden's been there for a couple of years. Mike D'Antoni's kind of built this philosophy and says, "Hey, we're going to utilize you. You are one of the best players in the league. We're going to use you." And I think that's a smart thing to do because James Harden is one of the top 5 players in this league, hands down. Yeah. It's just a matter of I don't know that Chris Paul can adapt to the system. And I think you and me talked about this before, just when we were talking about. It's been a while, but when they first made that trade. Houston knows what they're doing when they made that trade. They knew what they were getting in Chris Paul. They know what Chris Paul is. They know what Chris Paul was. Chris Paul knew what he was signing up for. I just think, again, it's going to take playing time, and it sucks that he's going to be out for a month and a half, 2 months of the season with this injury because they need this. They need to realize, is Chris Paul what we need? Is Chris Paul what we need to get over the hump? Can we get past Golden State with Chris Paul? Which, Chris Paul isn't good in the playoffs, but besides that fact, Chris Paul is a hell of a player. He really is. He's like a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. He's been one of arguably the best. Every year in and year out, other than the ones that he's been injured in and missed significant time, you can make a case since he's been in the let's say 2007 when he really started entering his prime. You could argue every year since then that he was the best point guard in the league at that time, other than, like I said, when he was injured, and I'm pretty sure that year was the same year Steph Curry was unanimous MVP.
Yep.
Other than that, though, like I said, every year you can kind of make a case for Chris Paul being the best point guard. So the fact that he came over to Houston, still playing really well, coming off a pretty nice season with the Clippers, it's gonna take some getting used to, and our questions still haven't been answered because we only saw one game, and now Paul's going to be out for a little bit.
Exactly.
So we're just really just going to have to kind of wait and see. But, overall, it's kind of like the Kevin Durant Warriors thing. If the guy's available and he wants to come to your team, why not pick him up no matter the thing? And I think that's kind of how Chris Paul is. So, but like I said, James Harden still has the keys overall. Speaking of keys, Russell Westbrook still has the keys. Had a triple-double the other night, like you mentioned, against the Knicks. This was Melo's revenge game, even though it wasn't in New York. I think that'll be the actual revenge game if that ever ends up happening.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's scheduled for this season. But if he sticks around for next year, it'll be. We'll fact check that. Get back to you next episode. But it was still technically a revenge game because he did go up against his former team. I don't know if you're on the same page as me. By the way, Thunder annihilated the Knicks. Wasn't even close after the first quarter. I have a lot more confidence in Oklahoma City than I did before, and I had a lot of confidence in them going into the season. Am I alone in that? Like, this game, even though it was against the lowly Knicks, they played really freaking well. Paul George is adapting to his new role.
I think he really is. Going back to the Thunder do play at the Knicks on December 16th this year.
Sweet.
So they do. So that'll be interesting. It's right around Christmas. Right around Christmas, yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. Like I said, when I first saw it, I was worried. I was like, they're all three known for their ISO scoring. I mean, Russell Westbrook did everything last year. He was the offensive weapon, the defensive weapon, the only weapon Oklahoma City had. Right. And you kind of saw that. I mean, he had to score triple-double every night. He averaged a triple-double last season. Unheard of. And I was like, that's great. I don't really like Russell Westbrook just because of his attitude, I guess. He seems like he has an attitude all the time. But that's how he plays. That's just he's a great player. I respect the hell out of him. He's a really, really great player. I just personally don't like him. Paul George, I like Carmelo. I think it's interesting when they all came together. I was talking to my coworker, and I was talking to him about. I just don't know how it's going to mesh because they're all three heavy ISO scorers. I think they were all of them were top 8 in the league last year in ISO points. So that was going to be interesting. But looking how they played the Knicks, I think it's going to be great. I think Russell Westbrook is finally happy to have somebody else that he can rely on to score. They were all playing defense too. When's the last time you heard Carmelo play defense?
Get the fuck out of here. Rebounds. Love it.
I haven't seen Carmelo play defense probably since Denver when he was with the Nuggets. I don't know if it was just he didn't care because the Knicks were so bad or what, but he actually...
He was like seasonal depression, but year long with the Knicks.
I think so. And it was. I think he had a no trade clause, and I was like, why don't you get out? Why don't you just get out of Cleveland or not Cleveland, New York? Like if you hate it so much, just leave. And he finally did this offseason. I'm happy for him. He needed to get out of that dumpster fire, but I don't know. I mean, I thought it was gonna be interesting. I didn't know how well it was gonna go. Obviously, it's only one game in. We'll kind of see if it comes down to a close game later in the season, where they're trying to get one of the top 3 seeds or whatever like that, and they're playing. Let's say they're playing Golden State, and Golden State's up by 2. Who are you going to get the last second shot to? Is Russ going to take the last second shot, drive in, or are you going to kick it out to Paul George? Is Melo going to take the last shot? It's kind of like that question we always kind of have with these super teams. Who's going to be the alpha among the other alphas? You know what I mean? Who's going to be the alpha to the alphas?
Statistic-wise, to your point about who's going to take the last shot, Paul George has never made whatever the categorize it as last shot within the last 5 seconds of fourth quarter OT.
Overtime. Yep.
Or overtime, yeah. Paul George has not made. He's attempted 23. It was either 23 or 29. Either way, really bad. of whatever, 0%, which is really bad. Russell Westbrook is 15%, but Carmelo Anthony, surprisingly enough, is 23%. In that category. So, but I think at the end of the day, you got to give the ball to Russell. It's his team.
It's his team. Yeah, like you said, he's had the keys. Yeah. He is kind of the keys of the league right now with being the reigning MVP. That's gonna be gonna be interesting. I don't know. I think I'm interested to see how that kind of chemistry develops between those three. Can they keep Paul George past this season? That's gonna be a big question.
Right.
If they get a top 2 or top 3 seed and make the Western Conference Finals, will that be enough to keep him?
Yeah, I think I'm one of the only people who doesn't think Paul George is totally set on going to the Lakers, and that just might be me being a Blazer fan. So by default, I'm a Laker hater.
Yeah.
Through my blood. But I don't know if I see Paul George going to Los Angeles. And like you said, if this year plays out really well, I don't see him leaving Oklahoma City at all. I mean, granted, it's a small market, and I think that's one of the reasons Melo never left New York is because, his Lala, she loves the New York scene. I think he did as well, kind of grew up there, went to college there. But
yep.
I think Oklahoma City is turning into a NBA sports, basketball town more so than anything.
Yeah.
It's slowly developing. Obviously, football is still huge down in that state. But the Thunder, that's the only team. I kind of relate it to the Blazers. The reason the Blazers always sell out the Moda Center, always have passionate fans, that's all we have sports-wise up here.
Absolutely.
Seattle is 3 hours north.
I mean, you look
Seahawks,
at Seattle. This is the same franchise. This is the Supersonic franchise that moved to Oklahoma City. In Seattle, they were the lifeblood. I mean, they had the Seahawks. Yeah, you have the Mariners, but that was like Seattle Supersonics. That was the sport. That basketball was the sport of Seattle. And when they moved it, it was like Seattle needs a basketball team. Seattle deserves a basketball team. Yeah. I think the next expansion is probably going to be in Seattle or Las Vegas.
I hope so.
It's going to be one of those two. I think the league should expand by 2. This is just a crazy thought, completely random. Las Vegas, because the Raiders are going to Vegas, so you need to have an NBA team down there now.
Yeah.
And then also bring one back to Seattle. I think Seattle needs a team. They deserve a team. I mean, it's going to be, I don't know. That's an interesting thing. I know they definitely need to work out their whole stadium thing. That was the reason Oklahoma City, the Thunder left, went to Oklahoma City, was because they couldn't get to a agreement as far as a stadium or somewhere to play. But I don't. I like you said, Oklahoma City that's what they have. That's Oklahoma City is basketball.
Yes.
It's just what it is.
And that's a large part into the tandem of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook throughout the years, but more so now, Russell Westbrook because he actually won the MVP.
He did.
Kevin Durant won the MVP with Oklahoma City as well, but that was kind of expected. Russell Westbrook came off a departure of his best friend in action,
right?
And it was a revenge season all year, and he won MVP in one of the most historical best seasons any of us will ever see. So that kind of fed into the lifeblood.
He played angry. He played angry last year, and that was my big thing too. Was like, all right, he got a triple-double last year. Can he do it again though? Because I mean, it's a year removed. It's a year gone now. It's 2 years gone from Kevin Durant leaving. It's like you surely can't repeat what you did, but he's one game in. I mean, I'm just saying he looks just as good as he did last year. It's going to be scary.
Yeah. It really is going to be. Now that he has all that help. A little bit better 3-point shooting, obviously. Now that Paul George is more of a catch and shoot guy than anything.
Absolutely.
Which he's gonna kind of have to redefine his role. But on top of that, other team that played in that game, the Knicks. I think the Knicks are going to be okay this season. Kristaps Porzingis still looked all right, but other than that, they don't really have anything to go in. I don't think that they're going to be like a bottom 5 team. Definitely think they're going to be one of the 10 worst teams in the league. But I don't think they're going to be like bottom 5 or anything.
I think they're going to be terrible. I really do.
I
don't think Kristaps is really good. I love Porzingis. I think that, but you look at what Phil Jackson did to that franchise. He absolutely
gutted it.
Absolutely gutted it, and then he wanted to gut it again after a couple of years of a failure. I think. I mean, you look at the bottom feeders of the league this year. It's probably going to be the Pacers. I mean, who do they really have? Orlando Magic. I hate to say it, they're my boys, but they're going to be bad this year. And then
Jonathan Simmons.
Jonathan Simmons is good. He's good. I think he's going to be really good for us down the road. But right now, who do we have? I mean, outside of him, and we have I always forget his name.
Well, you have Bismack and you have Jonathan Isaac now.
Yeah.
Eric Fournier, Nikola.
The big center, Vucevic. That's it.
Yeah.
With him, but I mean, they're talking about trading him every year. The past couple of years, just talking about trying to get rid of his contract just because it's
dysfunctional.
He's Orlando. Since Stan Van Gundy and Dwight Howard left, has been the most dysfunctional NBA team.
Yep.
I mean, you could talk about
Terrible
Philadelphia.
trades.
You could talk about
Terrible
You could
trades.
talk about You could talk about Philadelphia, and they tore down their team, and then when they started playing good, they tore it down again. Like they were like, "Oh, Michael Carter Williams is playing good. We're gonna trade him. We're gonna trade
Rookie
all
of the
these
year.
good players."
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah,
Great.
exactly. And you talk about bad trades. We were talking about this before we started recording. The same thing that Oklahoma City traded to get Paul George is what Orlando traded for Serge Ibaka, who didn't even last, I think, a full season in Orlando before going to Toronto.
Yeah, he was
They
a
traded
trade
him at the
deadline.
trade deadline. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what to think. I really like Frank Vogel, the coach. I think he's a good coach. I hope they give him a few more years to finally get some talent in there. I think we just got a new GM this offseason, so
Yeah.
I'll get off the rant though. Orlando Magic's gonna suck. I think Knicks are gonna be just bad this year, man. I don't see anybody outside of Chris Stapps on that team.
I think the only reason I say they're not going to be, a bottom 5 team, other than my confidence in Porzingis, I think that Enes Kanter is going to give them some pretty good minutes. I think that Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be able to knock down some threes, and that's going to help them win some games.
Talk about overpaid players.
Yeah, he's
Tim
definitely
Hardaway Jr. Yeah,
he may be like number 1 most overpaid. It's crazy, but I think Phoenix is going to be a really bad team.
Yep.
I agree with I almost agree with Orlando, but at the same time I kind of don't. Who's the first team you said?
Indiana.
Was going to be
Pacers.
Indiana. Yeah, I think that the Pacers won't be too good either. Even though I like Victor Oladipo, I like how he plays. I don't think he was in the right system at Oklahoma City or Orlando. To be quite honest with you. So maybe Indiana is the sweet spot for him.
Yeah, and Miles Turner. Miles Turner is going to be a really good player.
Yeah.
I think he's only 21. That's what's crazy. Yeah. He's been in the league what seems like 3 or 4 years, I think now. And he's only 21, turning 22 this season. So that'll be interesting.
And I think the Lakers are going to be terrible as well.
Phoenix, I think so too. I mean, did you see how? I mean, Lakers are so young. They're going to be good in a couple of years. Give them a couple of years, but and I think people are just going to be gunning for them because of Lonzo Ball and because of his dad, the man who shall not be named.
He's
Mr. Ball.
Mr.
Ball. So
Father Ball.
Father Ball. There we go. Father Ball. Let's call him that. I don't want to use his first name. He does not deserve to be talked about.
No, not at all.
Not at all. But let's kind of take a step back from NBA. We're going to talk some college football now for real quick. This past weekend, Dayton, was crazy, especially with West Coast teams. West Coast teams it was upset galore. I mean, you had Washington, top 5. I think they were 5 overall, lost to Arizona State. Washington State on Friday night loses to Cal Berkeley. They didn't even look like they got off the bus. I was like, is this Washington State or is this like their JUCO team? Or is this not JUCO? Is this their JV team? Then of course down here in the South, LSU, they beat Auburn. Auburn was 10 in the nation, I believe. Clemson lost to Syracuse. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of Clemson being Clemson. I think Clemson always loses a game they should not lose. Of those upsets that I listed, or if maybe I didn't list one, what upset do you think was the biggest, Aiden? What kind of shocked you the most?
That's funny that you had that little side note about Clemson before you finished that off, because I think Clemson that was by far the biggest one, obviously because they were the second ranked team in the league. Somehow they only dropped back 3 spots to 5. Baffles my mind.
Which shows the respect that people have for him. I think
that's true. No, that's true. And Dabo Swinney is a great coach. He's going to be able to, they're still a good team. They're still good. Losing to Syracuse? Are you kidding me?
You're and my friend Tyler Raymond. He's he's from New York. He's a big Syracuse fan. I'm sure he freaked out. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about the game. I'm sure he was freaking out.
He's pretty happy about that.
I don't know, man. I agree with you. That's the biggest upset. But you kind of look at Clemson. They, like you said, they only dropped 3 spots to 5.
Yeah.
You kind of look at Alabama too. Let's say Alabama was to lose this weekend to Tennessee. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen because Tennessee can't score a freaking touchdown. But let's just say they do. They're 35-point favorites. I think Clemson was 24-point favorites. So let's say that Tennessee does beat Alabama. How far do you think Alabama falls?
Okay. All right. How far do I think they will based off of, what they've been doing, or how far do I think they should fall if that were to happen?
Let's say both.
Okay. So first of all, I thought Clemson should have dropped to 8. I think they
so
should
too. I looked at the polls and I was like,
Yeah.
how are they still in the top 5?
Yeah,
That's
there's no
embarrassing.
way. Like at the very least, yeah, 6 or 7 at the very, very least. I think 8 would have been good for them. Alabama, if they were to lose to Tennessee, I think that they should also drop out of the top 5. You can't lose. First of all, it's a rival game,
Yep.
or not. Sorry, not a rival. Well, kind of a rival game.
It is. It's an old rivalry. It hasn't really met much lately.
It's an in-conference battle.
Yep.
So losing those games are pretty. That's the thing about Clemson. Wait, Syracuse is in the ACC right now, right? They're not in the Big East anymore. Okay. Totally spaced on that. So that was also a in conference loss. But if Alabama were to lose, you can't be in the top 5 if you lose that late to a team that bad with a spread for you that large. So yeah, I would say that if Alabama were to lose, however, Nick Saban is a pretty good coach. I'd probably say around like 8 or 9 as well. But I think that they would still be in the top 5 if they were.
I agree.
Respect.
If Alabama loses this season, they will, or this week, they'll still be. Yeah. They'll be number 5.
Yeah.
The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will move up to the top 4. And then Alabama falls to 5. I just think that's the respect that Alabama has garnered. That's the respect they've gained, being consistently good for the past decade. And I think Clemson, the past couple of years, 2 straight NCAA playoff finals appearances against Alabama. That's just the respect they gained. They also lost Kelly Bryant for the game. Their starting quarterback got knocked out, so they couldn't really have that comeback moment, I guess, because I guess their backup wasn't really that good, or at least didn't play that well. I don't know. Clemson came out sluggish at the beginning of the game. Clemson definitely just came out sluggish, and they could not recover. I mean, they let Syracuse hang around. I agree that's the biggest upset. Another one that really surprised me though was, like I said, Washington State. Like, this is a team that just came off of a Friday night performance against USC, or was that 2 weeks ago? But prior,
you're talking about Washington State?
Yes.
Yeah. No, that was last week. That was the week before. Literally the week after they beat USC. Yeah.
Probably their biggest win in a long time, if not ever, over USC. They gave them the front runner to be a Pac-12 champion. Compete with Washington up north and all that. That last week matchup was going to be huge. It was going to be who's going to make the playoff, who's going to make the Pac-12 title game. I just think that was a horrible loss. Like, you can't lose that game. You cannot lose that game. Again, Cal, I think it's their first. They have a second year head coach in Justin Wilcox. He kind of, I don't know. He did something to that defense because they had like 9 sacks that game.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know what happened, man. It was a crazy week, and I knew that was going to happen that week as soon as I saw Clemson fall.
Okay, you knew it was going to be one of those weeks.
I knew once I saw Clemson fall in that first game, I was like, this week's about to get crazy. But I didn't know Washington State would be one of those teams that would upset me, like disappoint me. Like,
yeah, that definitely would have been that's my second biggest upset of the week by far. I mean, like, especially coming off the heels of such a big win, we saw USC go down to Cal and handle them really well,
right?
And then we saw Washington State handle USC really, really well. And if A equals B equals C, then A equals C.
Right.
That's not the case in college. That's not the case in sports, unfortunately. So Washington State just fell flat. Mike Leach has actually done a fantastic job so far this year. I think that's part of the reason that they were such a good team. Mike Leach lets Luke Falk and all the quarterbacks before him under Leach at Washington State, Texas Tech for that matter too. Yeah. He lets them throw the ball. He knows their abilities. He knows how well they can be. He lets Luke Falk do that. But when your quarterback is struggling, as much as Luke Falk was that game, you have to change something up. I mean, it didn't kind of going over the highlights. At least I don't watch the game live, but going over the highlights, watching as many plays as I could, I didn't see them try to change up their game plan. Granted, they were trying to come back, but I didn't see them change up their game plan at all. It was pretty crazy, and that was obviously a very important game because, like you said, they just came off their biggest, upset or win overall in a long, long time. But they had the Pac-12 in their hands. They had the Pac-12, a berth to the Pac-12 championship in their hands. Totally blew it. I don't know if they're lucky Washington lost and they're lucky they had beat USC, or else they'd be out of the question. They still have some, their hat's still in the, ring in terms of getting to that game, but they blew their chance to actually almost secure it.
I completely agree with you. I think, had Washington losing as well, USC hasn't looked great this year. Stanford has a couple early season losses. The Pac-12 could very well miss the college football playoff this year.
Say that one more time.
The Pac-12 could very well miss the college football playoff this year.
That's the crazy thing about it. I was thinking USC or Washington was going to get in, and it was going to be a battle betwing those two. Now, yeah, like you said, neither of them might not make it.
It's gonna
wild.
be scary, man. It's gonna be hard for them. I mean, obviously one of them has to just literally defeat everybody. You have to hope for a lot of stuff happen in the Big Ten. You have to hope Penn State loses a couple games and Ohio State loses a game, and I mean, you just have to hope that Clemson might lose another game. You have to hope for madness to happen this season. Obviously, I think Alabama is going to be in the title game. I think.
Yep.
It's going to happen again. They're just built for it again. And outside of that, I mean, it's wide open. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
I think Clemson is going to be able to recover okay. I mean, their game against Florida State now, with Florida State struggling, isn't going to be that impressive on their resume,
Yep.
you know, if they win, as it would have been in the past. So, you know, they're kind of in trouble. But, you know, LSU, first of all, very nice win, very nice comeback win. Totally trolled the Auburn Tigers.
Auburn's
and their
mascot.
who's trying to troll them. So that was good by them. But again, they're not gonna. They're gonna have probably a decent bowl game. You know, that's their ceiling as far as the season.
Right.
Washington State might be the only team who is going to be able, because again, if they beat Washington, they've already beat USC. If they win the Pac-12 championship, don't lose any more games. Clemson isn't really able to recover. Michigan has lost. Let's say Ohio State loses to like Michigan or so. Let's say Ohio State blows a game. Washington State has a shot, kind of a shot at getting back into college football. It's going to be tough, but as far as all these teams that lost, I think it's almost guaranteed that Clemson will probably still be in the college football playoffs. But I think Washington State has kind of a secret shot at making that fourth spot if, you know, everything goes perfectly their way. But they're a talented team. They're a good roster, and it was really hyped up here in Washington, the state of Washington, when Washington State ended up winning, because that doesn't happen very often. But you know, and then they blow it like that. So
yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Like you said, I do believe Clemson will make it. I do believe. I haven't been really impressed with Washington this year. Maybe it's because I haven't watched them. Maybe Chris Peterson has a point with them playing at 10:45 Eastern time for me. I can't stay up that late all the time and watch.
Right.
I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting to see how things recover. We have some big games this week. You know, Penn State plays Michigan. You have Notre Dame and USC. Notre Dame's a quiet team, 13th in the nation. Their only loss comes to Georgia by a couple points in Notre Dame. It's gonna be Notre Dame could very well, if they win this game, their schedule sets up nicely for them to make some noise for the college football playoff.
Yep.
They might could sneak in. So Washington State's little snafu this weekend. Washington snafu could cost them. I mean, it might open the door for Notre Dame. So we'll have to see with that how it goes with that. So,
well, we've been talking for over an hour. It's been fantastic. So I'm super glad to be back in this podcast.
I am too, man. It's
been a little bit too long.
It's a blast.
But let's start ending up the show. Super excited about this segment. It's going to be the NBA individual players preview for us. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we haven't gone over who we think will win the individual awards. And we've already broken down what to expect this season when it comes to the NBA and in terms of who's going to go to the playoffs. But let's break down who we see winning these awards. So we'll start out with you, Matt. Give me, from MVP to Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, all that jazz, give me who you think will win each individual player award when it's all said and done.
Just down the list?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. MVP?
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, when you say it, I'll say mine too, and then we'll just kind of compare and contrast.
Okay. For my MVP, I really think Giannis Antetokounmpo. I hope I pronounced his name at least somewhat right. I think he's gonna be. I think he's the next great. You kind of talk about Anthony Davis is the next great player, but I think Giannis is really the next all-around player. He can control the ball. He's kind of their point guard, their shooter, their go-to man. He is probably their LeBron. They built a team around him. He's been there for a couple of years. He has the players around him now. I really think Bucks are going to be a top probably 4 team in the East this year.
Okay.
So I have Giannis, coming away with MVP this year. That was kind of a hard one to narrow down. There's a lot of players that deserve it, but I think the voters kind of like mixing it up a little bit. They don't want to give it to somebody twice in a row anymore. I think Giannis is going to have a great year. So I'll kind of go with him. What about you, man?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the guy you said you don't think is going to win the award, not off talent, just based off of who he's surrounded with. LeBron, I do think that he's going to end up winning the MVP. Every few years or so, the voters realize that, hey, man, LeBron's really freaking good. We need to give him this award. And I think this year is that year. Even though he does have Dwayne Wade, his actual sidekick, who he has arguably had even more success with than Dwayne Wade, but definitely a shorter amount of time. Kyrie Irving is gone.
Yep.
He's kind of the maestro of the isolation on that team. So Dwayne Wade is aging. Also, Kyrie was in his prime. Dwayne Wade isn't in his prime. Isaiah Thomas is still out for the long haul. But I do think that he has some better supporting pieces this year, might hinder his chances. But still, I think that voters will just kind of realize that, hey, this guy needs that award. You know what I'm saying? So.
I agree. I you make a good argument for it. I don't know if it's going to happen. But I kind of same thing with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, he didn't win every year. But every couple of years, they were like, all right, time to give it back to him again. He kind of deserves it. So
Phil Jackson only won one head coach of the year award, too, which is crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, man. What about Rookie of the Year? Who do you have?
Give me Ben Simmons.
I agree.
Especially after the first game that we saw him, I think that he was looking really, really good. The last time a number 1 overall pick missed his first actual rookie season, do you remember who it was?
Number 1 overall pick that missed his actual rookie season.
That was out for the first year. The number 1 overall pick.
Is it recent or has it kind of been a while?
It's in the 2000s. So it's in the 21st century.
You got me. I had no idea.
Blake Griffin came back
okay.
and won Rookie of the Year when he came back from injury. So I have a feeling Ben Simmons is going to kind of follow that path as well.
I think so. I think Ben Simmons is the real deal. I think Philly is going to be very much improved this year. Probably get a top 6 seed in the East. That's just how down the East is. They have a lot of talent, young talent. They played really well against the Wizards the other night. They came up a little bit short, but again, I think Ben Simmons and Embiid are kind of the real deal for that team.
Yeah, so. and you have Simmons. He's a distributor. He's going to be passing the ball to guys like Markelle Fultz and Joel Embiid. So he has the guys who are going to get him some assists to kind of pump up his numbers to make him kind of Rookie of the Year. And look at the competition he's going against too as well. I mean, Lonzo Ball I don't think is going to be that good. I don't think Markelle Fultz is going to be anywhere near that award because I don't think he's even the best guy on that team. He's not even the best rookie on that team.
Exactly.
I think Simmons is better. Dennis Smith Jr. has a shot.
Other
than that, you look at the top 10 and you just go, these are going to be good guys, but mainly they were drafted to be kind of role players, at least for the first few seasons of their careers.
Didn't Dennis Smith almost have a triple-double? Or maybe he did have a triple-double?
Yeah, he did. His first basket was an alley-oop dunk. Really impressive.
Yeah, so I think he could very well, outside of Ben Simmons, could very well go to him.
Yeah.
I think if Ben Simmons stays healthy this year, it's his award. They're just going to give it to him. It's just what's going to happen.
Yes, I agree.
I'll kind of skip down a bit on mine. I'll skip the coach and GM. We'll go back to those. 6th man of the year.
Sure.
I have Eric Gordon winning this. I think
I struggled with this. Yeah, and I almost put Eric Gordon too. I struggled with that. That's a good pick. Eric Gordon is.
I think didn't he win it at 2016?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he won it last year. Yeah.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah. And did you pick what made you pick him?
I mean, just watching him the other night, especially against the Warriors, just coming off the bench, and he kind of brought that spark that Chris Paul's out there and the Rockets offense is sluggish. You put Eric Gordon out there at the 1 and he just facilitates. I think he put up double-digit points. He had all these great passes. I mean, he just kind of facilitated the ball better. I think he's going to have another great year. I think Houston's going to be top number 2 in the West, and I think it's going to be a big part because of him coming off that bench and providing some depth for them.
He's a super important piece, and that also speaks volume to how well Mike D'Antoni has been coaching him because he's going to revitalize his career.
Yeah, he absolutely did.
Houston.
Absolutely.
So I picked Lou Williams. I kind of struggled with this. It's tough, but really top guys: Eric Gordon, Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams, Andre Iguodala. I think that most likely they are going to be in the running for it. Give me Lou Williams just because I think the Clippers are going to be better than people are expecting.
I think
that they're going to be a playoff team. And I think that Lou Williams is going to provide them really, really important baskets off the bench, especially now that Chris Paul is gone. And, when you have Patrick Beverly and Austin Rivers, not exactly offensive superstars, so to speak.
Right.
Lou Williams is going to be able to pick up some of that slack and know that he's that Energizer bunny off the bench. So,
Absolutely.
that's my reasoning. But again, it was tough, so I wouldn't be surprised if Gordon won it. Most improved player, I have Yusuf Nurkic. Kind of the Blazers stan in me.
Homer.
Oh yeah, I know. Definitely Homer pick. But I'm not the only one. Some national media guys are also saying Yusuf Nurkic. It's not like he played terrible last year or anything. It's just kind of a brand new career here in Portland. Got his minutes cut in favor of Jokic down in Denver.
Yeah.
So and then he kind of started playing bad once his minutes were cut. A lot of did not play due to coach's decision. So he just needs to revitalize his career playing a full season with us, and by us I mean the Blazers.
That's a good pick. I like I said, I had him on my list. I have it down to 2. I have Brandon Ingram and Miles Turner. I think I'm going to take Miles Turner off just because I think Indy is going to be terrible this year. Like I said, I think they're going to be a bottom 7 team in the league as far as record goes. Miles Turner is 21. This is his team now though. So he has to take a step up if he wants to get them some wins. I just think Brandon Ingram finally shows that he is a good player. He finally has a playmaker, Alonzo Ball. He is a very, very, very good playmaker. Can get him the ball. He's very good with his passing. I think Brandon Ingram finally shows Magic Johnson and the world that hey, they're gonna be on national TV a lot. The Lakers are.
Yeah,
they are. Yeah. So I really think
market.
Ingram's gonna be a big one. I think that's going to be a big pick.
So does winning matter in improved player? Because if it does, then I don't think Turner or Ingram will be able to win that award strictly based off of their team not being too good. But if winning doesn't matter, then they're both in play.
I don't know that it necessarily has to matter. A lot of people are also saying, I was reading some things on Twitter before this, trying to come up with the names. A lot of people are saying Kristaps Porzingis could be the most improved player, and it's like
perhaps.
The Knicks are probably going to be very bad this year. I mean, you're a little bit higher on them than I am, I think, and most people. But I don't really know that it does. I think unless there's somebody that just comes back from like a devastating injury or something like that just played awful last year and they're on a really, really good team, I think it has to come from a smaller team that's not necessarily bad, but just a smaller market team.
Because Danny Granger won it 1 year
with the Pacers.
This was a few years back with the Pacers. I don't think they were a playoff team that season. So
I don't think they
it
were
does
either.
Matter. So those are good picks. Those are honestly really good. What about Defensive Player of the Year?
You mentioned him earlier, Patrick Beverly. He completely shut down Lonzo Ball. Got all up in his face. I think Lonzo had only one made basket. It was a 1 3-pointer made. He is. I heard something about his story about how where he grew up and how his personality, the way it is. I know you've mentioned before you don't like him. You used to not like him because of his personality. I'm the same way with Russ. That's kind of how I feel. But I think hearing the story of Patrick Beverly and how he, got to where he is, he had to scrap for everything he's gotten. And he has a chip on his shoulder this year because Houston just goes like, we don't need you. We're gonna get Chris Paul. And I mean, Chris Paul is definitely an upgrade over Patrick Beverly. I'm not trying to say Patrick Beverly is not. Is not worse.
Breaking: Matthew Mafatridge says Patrick Beverly is better than Chris Paul.
Headline news. I can see it now. Headline news. But I mean, I don't know. I think Patrick Beverly has a chip on his shoulder. I think he's going to go out there and just ball out every night. And like you said, the Clippers are going to be probably better than a lot of people think. Blake Griffin balled out the other night, by the way. I mean,
he did.
That went unnoticed. I was too. I was like, how's he going to handle without? He did just fine. Fine. Yeah. So that's why I put Beverly. What about you, man?
Yeah. I like Patrick Beverly now. I used to not like him, but the older I get, the more I look at these guys. I'm like, oh yeah, they're just trying to play the game. There's more to just physicality. They can get into people's heads and be annoying and whatnot. So total respect out to Patrick Beverly. That would be awesome. I'd actually love to see him win. And I loved watching him bully Lonzo as well. My pick was Rudy Gobert. Kind of a simplistic pick. So you say just because, a lot of people are picking him to win it this year. A lot of people picked him to win it last year when he got up there. But another team, the Jazz have lost some players. They gained Ricky Rubio, which is going to be interesting. But other than that, they lose Gordon Hayward. Boris Diaw is part of the team, and he was pretty good. So offensively, I think Rudy Gobert's production will go down simply because he's not getting. I think Hardwood Paroxysm tweeted this: 46% of the passes Rudy Gobert received last season were from three guys: Gordon Hayward, Boris Diaw, and one other guy. Oh, George Hill, who their point guard that they lost to Sacramento. 46%, and they're all gone now. So I think that his offensive production will go down, but his defense production will go up because you don't have Boris Diaw being there. Really, Gobert is going to be the last line of defense, so to speak, for the Jazz. So he's going to be able to get more blocks. He's going to get the most rebounds on the team by far. Could end up averaging a triple-double. So yeah, give me Rudy Gobert. I think that he's a great off the pick and roll as well. He's terrible isolated against guards, as we saw in the playoffs last year against Steph Curry. Other than that, fantastic defender, and I think that he's going to have a shot at winning it.
Very, very good argument. Utah is not going to be that great this year. I don't think. They lost too many pieces. We'll see. They're in the West, too. It makes it hard to do anything. But I like that pick. I think Rudy Gobert is probably my second pick behind Beverly. They do tend to give it to bigger guys. You also got to look out for Draymond Green. If Draymond Green gets healthy and plays good this year, that's one thing. And Kawhi Leonard, both those guys are consistently going to be the top 2 or 3 in the voting of Defensive Player of the Year. So we'll kind of see where that goes. Real quick, I know you and me both agree on this one. GM of the Year.
He's going to be Sam Presti, for sure.
Yep, from Oklahoma City.
He was able to get Paul George for a song and a dance, and then Carmelo Anthony for a cheeseburger. Yep. So it was fantastic moves, able to pull it off. Didn't have to give up any draft picks. Oklahoma City is going to be in good shape. Also, one of the underrated things that he was able to, obviously he wasn't alone in doing it, but he was able to sign Russell Westbrook to that extension.
Yeah.
So Westbrook, their picks, guys like Steven Adams, Andre Roberson, they're going to be part of the team for a long time to come.
I agree.
Which is great, which is fantastic for the like we were talking about Oklahoma City. Great basketball.
They deserve it. They deserve it down there for sure. Coach of the Year, I have Tom Thibodeau up in Minnesota. Minnesota's going to be a sleeper in the West this year. I think they could very well make the Western Conference Finals, at least make the Western Conference semis. It's just a matter of can Tom Thibodeau actually coach some offense. You do have probably the best big man in the game in Karl Anthony Towns. You have Andrew Wiggins. You bring in one of the best defensive players, Jimmy Butler. Also look out for him for Defensive Player of the Year, especially under Tom Thibodeau now, defensive-minded coach. I didn't really think about that. That's interesting. That's an interesting pick, maybe. I think Tom Thibodeau is going to be Coach of the Year. Get him to one of the top seeds in the West. Compete, have some good games this year, win a lot of games. Minnesota finally might have a good basketball team. They deserve it too. I
think that they do too, and I think that they will have a good basketball team for sure. Yeah, they have the talent. They got the coach. Tom Thibodeau was fantastic at when he was in Chicago for all that time. My Coach of the Year pick is going to be Billy Donovan for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Actually, surprisingly enough, same thing with Tom Thibodeau. He has the talent around him to be pretty good, and I do think Oklahoma City has a chance of going to the Western Conference Finals. And Billy Donovan, I think that this is the year for him to show that he is meant to be in the NBA, or meant to be an NBA coach and a really good NBA coach. And
I agree.
He's pieces to win a lot. So it's kind of the same thing with you and Thibodeau is it's got the talent. They're going to prove that they can win, so they're going to be up for that award for sure. So
I think that's a good pick, man. Very, very good pick. What do you guys think? If you guys agree with this, if you don't agree, leave us a comment. Hit us up on Twitter. Again, just let us know what you think. Who do you think is going to be MVP? Do you think we're stupid for picking who we think? Kind of went on a limb with Giannis there, and Dayton kind of stuck with Oklahoma City. He's liking them to win some games this year. Oklahoma City, head coach, GM of the year. Who knows? Yeah. Let us know what you guys think though in the comments down below.
Yeah. And follow us on Twitter too at HoopsandUPod. We're gonna start doing some polls on there as well soon.
Absolutely.
Some more interactions and followers and whatnot. So thanks guys so much for listening. This was great. Great to get back into it.
I agree. It's been a whole lot of fun. So man, thanks again so much for just coming back. Sorry it's been a couple of weeks. I know you and I have both been busy. Getting used to work schedules and everything like that, but looking forward to doing a lot of things. Like I said earlier in the podcast, we do have an NBA Top 5 countdown coming out as well. So be on the lookout for that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us so that you can kind of keep an eye out for those things as soon as they come out. Dayton and I will also be tweeting those out on our personal Twitters. You can follow Dayton at Dayton_Brown_. And you can follow me at McFatty, MMCFATTY93. Yeah, give us a follow. Yep. And thanks you guys so much again for listening. It's been a blast.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks again for listening. Yeah, be sure to subscribe to YouTube as well.
Subscribe.
Please
Subscribe.
like this video too if you can. Thank you.
Subscribe. Thanks.